YouTube, hello, welcome back to Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. We're going to be going over the battle ranking event today, and apologies for this being a little bit delayed. I've been really busy the last couple of days, but I did want to get this video out for folks, because I know there's a couple of folks that are struggling with this event, and I do want to touch base on both fights. We're going to do both fights in this one video. I'm not going to separate them out, and we'll go over what my builds were, how I went about trying to get my highest score that I could, and how I got to, well, I was top 100 before I started recording, but now I'm not anymore. But I will share what I've done so that you guys can get, you know, all the rewards that you're trying to get. And again, for the folks that don't know, for the battle ranking event, you want to make sure that you're getting all of the total point rewards, right? So you get all the total point rewards. All you have to do is clear the daily once a day missions. Obviously, we've only got a couple of days left because this video is way more delayed than I wanted it to be. But you can use stamina in these quests to go through and do the fight again to get more points. You really just want to be able to get to the maximum amount of points, which is that 25 million you saw at the top there, which gets you the 5 refined mithrils, because these are obviously very, very, very rare at this point in the game. So try to get to these 25 million points so you can actually get all of the rewards unlocked. If you've been doing the once a day quest in this and getting the extra 1 million points, you should be pretty close already. And I think you just have to get to, I think is it 20 million that you stop getting crystals? Nope, it's way before that. I think it's 16 million. Yeah, there you go. 16 million is the last spot where you get crystals for it. So at bare minimum, at least if you can get to the 16,000 spot, you'll get all the crystals that you're supposed to get for this. Everything else is just icing on the cake, right? But make sure that you're doing that. That's the most important part of this. So going into the actual challenge, your challenges are always going to be done in the free challenge spot. We're going to start with the Yuffie one because this one's a bit more cut and dry and a little easier in terms of just like trying to get raw damage out. So what I want to do first is I want to go over the team that I'm using. I am currently using a magic fire team that I've lost. Here it is. I'm using a magic fire team, and it's built around Tifa, who we all got the shell knuckles, her fire weapon, for free just for logging in, right? So everybody that started around Anniversary should already have access to this weapon. If not, obviously there's a ton of magic fire weapons. We'll go over all the options and such like that. But my main DPS is Tifa. I am using her specifically just for this fire damage attack. Everything else in the build is obviously just me trying to maximize my total DPS, but this is the damaging weapon for me. This is the highest damage weapon in the featured pool that you're able to get. Obviously, if you've pulled on the adult Sephiroth, if you pulled on Sephiroth original and his fire weapon, you have that at a high overboost level. That weapon is great in this fight. But if you don't have that, this is a great option. And these two builds, by the way, they're both going to be builds that are built around building a team that does not involve the banner characters, right? So I'm not using Fire Sephiroth and I'm not using Magic Yuffie to win these two fights, right? So when it comes to the actual fire build, I'm using Tifa Shell Knuckles. I have this on here as well, the leather combat gloves, just because at OB0 it gives us Enfeeble. This just makes it so that Yuffie takes more damage, which makes things a lot better when you're trying to get that at max hit point. And we'll talk about that once we actually see the total score. But otherwise, I happen to have these at OB10 because I pulled through the third stamp card. And so I have it at OB10. If you don't have this at OB10, you don't need this at OB10. OB0 is perfectly fine. If you don't have these gloves at all, for folks that have been playing for a while, obviously Exploit Weakness works great here. But I will caution that Exploit Weakness can sometimes knock Yuffie out a little bit too fast. So you might have to toy around with Exploit Weakness in this fight. I have not been using Exploit Weakness in this fight at all. Going into the Sephiroth side of the things, I'm using his Withering Blaze. This is strictly just for his fire resist down. You can get the fire resist down from low to mid at OB0, and it does do a decent amount of damage with a 20% boost as long as he's got a buff on. And Aerith, I'm using her Crimson Staff to get him a buff on automatically. So he'll be able to get this buff on no matter what, making sure that he's dealing lots and lots of damage, and while simultaneously lowering Yuffie's magic or fire resistance as well, which is great. Offhand weapon, I just have his prototype Crimson Blade. This just has attack and fire potency. I'm not actually using this effect for anything. It's just a really good offhand weapon to help get his fire potency up. And I'm actually using his Heliacal H Rising because it gives this effect that applies amp magic abilities and physical abilities, and it gives you a 30% boost to the next attack that you use for all of your characters, right? You can see it says all allies here. This will make it so that you can get to that bigger one hit mark with Tifa's actual attack if your summon is not doing really well. Obviously, if you don't have this at level 10, or if your Tifa isn't doing a ton of damage and Sephiroth is your main DPS and you're trying to build around, you know, the Ifrit summon because you have Ifrit at level 10, go for it, right? Nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely good. And I do have Ifrit at level 7, and this is probably the highest damage we're going to see, right? 2685% is obviously higher than Shell Knuckles. So that's likely what we'll try to do. But this 30% does not work with the summon. It only works with the attack. So if you are working with a lower summon level, this is a great way to amplify your actual attacks. And then finally, I'm just putting Aerith in here strictly because she's giving magic attack all allies and magic defense down. If you don't have access to this, there are a couple of other characters in the game that do have magic attack up with magic defense down. Just replace it with whichever one works best for you. If you don't have access to this magic defense down in another character and you have a magic attack somewhere else, the Kaiser Knuckles for Tifa is a great option to get yourself a magic defense down effect, right? This gives a magic defense down to high. And if you don't have the access to that, the Feathered Gloves also has a magic defense decrease of mid for 3 ATB, which isn't bad. So there's a couple of options in here. Just make sure you pick which one works best for you. That's basically the idea, though. We want to make sure we're lowering fire resistance. We want to make sure we're lowering magic defense. And we want to make sure we're increasing our own magic attack. So that's the core concept of the build. Other than that, this one's actually super easy. You want to make sure that you have both sigils. She has a damage sigil phase. So what that means is you'll want to have these damage sigils to increase the amount of damage that you're dealing to Yuffie, and that's going to allow you to get a really high one-hit attack for that maximum score, which I'll show you in the score in a second here. Let's go ahead and hop into it. I've talked enough. I have spoken enough. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to start on manual mode. And the first thing I want to do is I want to increase everybody's magic attack, and I'm going to start lowering the fire resistance. I'll use Detonating Blow here to increase our magic attack by 1 tier. Switch to defense mode so we don't take a big hit, and it Inflicted Enfeeble. So now we see this Landscaper Lock come in. This is not going to deal a ton of damage. Oh, I didn't go over the battle points. We'll do that after this, sorry. And then we're going to start dealing DPS here, and then you see here comes Explosion Seal. So we're going to do one of the Ruin Runs here, and then we're just going to start getting all of these damage sigil breaks off. Ideally, you want to have a magic sigil here for Sephiroth and not a physical one, so he doesn't get that minus ATB. But now it's going to be, well, close to maxed out. Catch a break, let's go. And then we'll do this, and that'll be enough. Okay, so then what we're going to do is make sure that we've got our maximum amount in, and just start DPSing. So you're just mashing all of your attack buttons at this point. Doing as much damage as possible. Now we've almost got maximum amount of fire resist down. And so now at this point, I'm going to start holding back a tiny bit because I want to get to the second sigil break phase to try to maximize my damage here. Okay, and now we're going to switch to defense mode for this next Landscaper attack. Take very little. And now we're just going to wait. We're going to stay on manual mode. We're not going to do a thing. We're just going to sit still. So now we're going to use all of our X sigil breaks. Let's get our magic attack back up. One more, and now let's start working on getting rid of the sigils. Okay. I'm gonna do this just to get her fire resistance back down, and now I'm just gonna pop everything off immediately. So Crimson Flare is gonna give us that +2 to fire potency. Sorry, my phone was off silent. And now here comes the Hellfire. So this Hellfire should do a lot of damage. There you go. It hit for 8.5 million. At this point, she's done. And now she's down. And so obviously that took a little bit longer, but I'll show you the entire point break here so you can see kind of the point breakdown. So I got 1.326 million. And you can see with the breakdown here, that one hit max damage for 8.5 million gave us 20,000 points. Our total damage taken was 3,800, which gave us 32,000 points. Our total battle time was 2 minutes and 10 seconds, which gave us 57,000 points. And all of that got multiplied by 1,100% And that's how we got to the total here, right? So I added all these together. That's how we got our total. And so the battle effects, I'll show you right now once we get out of this screen. Here we go. The battle effects that we had was I had her HP at the 40,000 mark, so that way I wouldn't knock her out too fast. I put 0 points into her physical attack and magic attack and her physical defense and magic defense. The reason why I did this is because I found that with the physical attack and magic attack up, I was taking too much damage and my score was lower. And when the physical defense and magic defense were up, I found that I was dealing less damage, which allowed me to be a little bit more aggressive with my DPSing when I was DPSing throughout the fight. But I wasn't hitting for quite as hard, which made me lose some points. And the actual trade-off is only what? I think it was a 100%, right? So it ended up not being a great trade-off for the investment. It might be better for you if you have like an OB10 Sephiroth weapon, or if you have better builds than I do in terms of like your fire DPS and etc. But for me, it didn't work out. Or if you're working with a really good exploit weakness build, right, that's another option. I don't have that available in my account, so I worked with what I had available. Everything else in this list is completely maxed out. Everything is at the highest it can be. You can see I've got 90% heal down, physical C ability cost. That's why I should have magic fires, not physical fires. Duration of buffs to others is lowered by 50%. Command gauge drain rate, you can see all of it there. So pretty simple, right? Pretty cut and dry. You're just going in with your basic DPSs and you're just trying to deal as much damage as humanly possible. And that's the reason why it works so well. You can just go in and, you know, bust your butt with the damage that you got. This one is a little bit more difficult for me in particular. The reason why this one is difficult is because you have to knock out one of them before the second Vajradhara, nailed it. Vajradhara. Before the other one uses Provoke and Veil. And the reason why that matters is because I'm going into these fights with only one DPS type, right? I'm going into this with only one DPS type, meaning that I'm using specifically either physical or magic earth in order to take down the one that is not resistant to that type. And the reason why I'm doing that is because once that one is down, the second one loses its resistance to that defense type. So as an example, the left one of these two has a physical resistance, so it's immune to physical damage. What you need to do is you need to knock out the one on the right, which is immune to magic damage, so that way the one on the left loses its physical resistance. You'll see what I'm talking about when I actually get into this. But you can see here, everything else is maxed out. The only things that I do not have maxed out is the HP. You can see HP, that's the only thing that we're working with that's lower. And then what I was using, I had a build that I was farting around with that had Yuffie as well, just because I was trying to use exploit weakness as an option. But I was using Lucia as well with her Rifle of the Hunt, which is another weapon that we got for free. So you can use Lucia with her Rifle of the Hunt, even though one of the effects is that you can't lower their earth resistance. This works for me still. And so for me in particular, this is a build that most of your new players, so if you're watching and you're newer to the game, you will not have access to this. But I was using Tifa's Gauntlet of the Worthy, which increases earth damage. And the reason why I was doing this, and I'll go into this fight to kind of showcase what I was doing. The reason why I was doing this is because not only does this give us a really positive interaction with the negative earth damage that we saw, but it also gave us a plus ATB, which allowed her to spam really, really quickly. So now that I've got +2 on my offensive skills, I'm going to wait until we get another Mending Wave up. And now she's going to be at +3, which will allow her to use these two, which will knock out the one on the right. And then you're going to see, after this one on the right goes down, you see how the defense changed there? So we switched to defense mode here to take the Tomahawk Boomerang. And now the only thing that was left to do is to go back over to Tifa in offense mode and just smack this thing twice, or once even. There you go. And that's it. Pretty easy, right? The reason why I was doing it this way is because when I was trying to do this at the higher HP ranges, I was finding that I was not knocking out the one that I needed to knock out before the Provoke and the Veil went down. And the reason why that matters is because once the Provoke and Veil go down, you are forced then to target the thing that you weren't hitting, right? So once the enemy on the right, which is where my physical team is targeting, gets to like red HP, critical HP, or I think it might be even be less than half. I don't remember exactly where the cut is. But once you get it down to that point, the one that you are not damaging provokes and veils, making it immune to status effects. It gets a defense buff as well, the one on the left does. And then obviously, since it's provoked, now your damage type is not good into the one that you're hitting. So the alternative here is you could rock in with a dual setup or a dual team, and I want to try to do that really quickly. Okay, so what we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try to build a team based around featured pool weapons that are mixed damage. So we're gonna rock in with Yuffie's Hawkeye, which is the strongest featured physical weapon in the game. And then I'm just gonna give her the Rocker's Guitar because that just makes the most sense. I will give her the Earth Arcanum outfit just for, you know, maximum amount of damage here. One of the debuffs that we get is that summon potency is down, so there's no point in equipping summons here. And I'll just give her most of my earth potency. I think most of my earth potency rolled pretty badly, so I don't really think this matters at the end of the day. I think I'll give one to each of them, and we'll just do physical attack here for Yuffie. Because remember that both of these enemies are immune to physical and magic defense debuffs, so you don't need to come in with defensive debuffs. You really just need to come in with particular buffs to make sure that they're able to continue dealing damage. So now we're going to build her out just like a normal physical earth build. For folks that did not see our Yuffie build guide, I did have a video posted here on YouTube that kind of showcases how to build all of the different builds that I would do for Yuffie. So I'm going to give her the Sequoia Dendron, which is going to max out her physical attack and give her that 65-point break in earth potency. And then I'm just going to give her both of the physical ability potency weapons that I've been doing, which is the enemy launcher and then Mad Minute to get her up to that 57-point break for physical ability potency as well. I don't know if we're going to get to that point in this fight. I think earth potency is more important because the command gauge doesn't rise that much. But if this does work out, I can actually use her Rocker's Guitar to increase the command gauge because that's part of what this weapon's very good for. So that might be something that we can do as well. But we're going to put that on there. And then for Lucia, we're going to give her an entire magic earth build revolved around her holiday revolver, no pun intended. And then in terms of what else we can include here, remember that this thing is immune to defensive debuffs. So at this point, we really just want some kind of an offensive weapon that will enable her magic earth weapon to deal the most damage it can. So at this point, there's not a ton in this list that Lucia wants that would really give me anything, any sort of benefit. So I think what I'll end up doing is I'll probably just use this opportunity to slot in a physical defense all allies weapon, because even though this effect isn't great, it also increases the command gauge, and this is just a guild weapon, right? So maybe we'll work with this. Let's go ahead and give her her standard ultimate weapon. We'll do cheering shots at level 10 because this gives +2 ATB to your entire team as well as a buff to your entire team, which is great. We'll go to magic attack focused materials. I'm going to give her 2. And then we're going to give her one of the earth potency materials at the bottom here just to try to increase her DPS as best as possible. So we'll go with this one here just because it's magic. And then I'll give her the outfit that we got for free, which does boost attack and boost physical defense. Okay, and then for sub weapons, we're going to give her the Razor Ring just because, again, this is the easiest one to give for magic earth. So we're going to give her the Razor Ring, which gives her the rest of her magic attack that she needs, as well as the rest of the earth potency that she's looking for. And then she's going to be taking 2 magic ability potency weapons that can help boost up her magic attack. The one I'm going to put on is Sawed Off GS because that gives the most there. And normally, I would like to get another 52-point magic ability potency weapon here, which would be the Electro Cannon. But I don't need the magic attack at this point because my magic attack is capped. So I would normally put on something like the Crystal Megaphone because that'll give me some more boost attack while still getting me to a level 5 break. But instead, I think I'm going to use this OB10 Bahamut Fangs just because it has magic attack all allies and boost magic ability potency, which will give us a little bit more DPS. I don't think it's going to make that huge of a difference, but it's at least worth a shot, right? It's at least worth a shot. And plus, the magic attack all allies will actually give Yuffie a little bit more damage on her limit break if we want to deal damage with the limit breaks, but I doubt that'll matter. I doubt that'll matter. Okay, and then for the last slot, try not to click out of the thing like I did. Now for the last slot, we want one of two things here. We either want a character that can buff both physical attack and magic attack, or a character that can heal up damage and give us defensive buffs. One of the two. It doesn't really matter which. And so at the end of the day, I think we're probably just going to use Barret here. I'm going to think about it out loud really quick while we're going through the list. Kate Sith has the ability to use physical attack and magic attack, but then you're looking at like limited weapons, which is probably not a good idea for trying to make this build accessible. We could do Glenn for a physical defense buff, and he also has the ability to provoke. So that'll take away some of the single target stuff and we can make him take most of the damage. That actually makes the most sense in my head. And then we can use cheering shots for Lucia to actually increase our attack. Maybe. Either that or Angeal. Angeal kind of does the same thing, right? Where he has a thing that increases physical attack. And I think Yuffie's going to be our primary damage dealer in this fight. So let's go with this. So let's go ahead and go with Angeal. I'm just going to give him again. This is his free, you can exchange for this in the gear voucher shop. We'll give him Stalwart Integrity. And then I'm going to go ahead and give him a Provoke with physical defense, right? Wouldn't that be this one? Yes, 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 because the Type 90 longsword comes with physical defense, which is great, but it also has a Provoke, which is awesome. We'll give him his exchanged ultimate weapon. We're gonna give him Ad Astra, which also has a Provoke on it as a backup plan, just in case we run out. We'll give him all physical defense, and he'll have a heal as well if we need it. I doubt we will though. And then we're just gonna give him a physical defense all allies weapon, and then a magic attack and physical attack all allies weapon. That's just to increase both of their DPS, and that'll do it. Okay, and then for the Memoria, we're just going to give up the one that gives the most. It looks like this one will be better just because it gives more physical defense. So this will also increase Lucia's damage by a little bit, which is great anyways because I'm going in with a physical attack buff anyway. So let's equip this one. And obviously that'll make Yuffie do a tiny bit less damage, but that should be fine. And then for battle effects, I'm going to go ahead and increase this to 15,000. Let's decrease the damage maybe. And let's see if we can make this work. Let's see if we can make this work. So this would be all featured pool weapons, except for obviously I have magic attack all allies and physical attack all allies on his sub weapons. Those weapons are available in the current banners as one-off copies. Even at OB0 at level 120, you're getting the maximum benefit from that as a sub weapon in terms of the R ability. So don't feel like you have to do it one way or the other. You should be fine. Okay, so we're gonna use Rocking Blast or Rock Blast over here. Let's go ahead and increase physical attack. We're gonna have Yuffie hit on the right side. Okay, and then we're just gonna hit the defense mode for this. I think that ultimately doing it this way is gonna be a little too slow, but I'd like to see what it looks like first before I like straight up say that like, this is just bad, right? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I am going to specifically get Provoke on, and I'm gonna start using this to get our command gauge up. We're gonna use Euphoric Dance to get Yuffie's attack up. And then just start DPSing because our maximum gauge is out now. And then just start doing as much damage as possible. Yeah, it's not dealing a lot of damage, which is unsurprising, but again, I'd like to see it first. Yeah, and that Earth DPS down is definitely causing a problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and retire here. So this is the reason why I ultimately just decided to just showcase the DPS build, because I don't think that this is going to be something that's very doable at the higher levels without taking away some of the debuffs that we have, right? So this Earth damage buff down, I think we have to take this off, or at least reduce it by a significant number. Maybe we can do it at 1 instead, but let's try it at 0 and see if this makes a huge difference. And again, I'm not going to cut any of this. I'm just going to leave all of this here in the recording, so that way you guys can see kind of the thought process here. This is obviously, again, not a perfect idea, but I wanted to just give the idea of kind of like what a featured pool build would look like. And I'm just going to focus with Lucia just on increasing our command gauge to try to make it so that Yuffie does as much damage as possible to the right side. And then once it taunts on the left, then I'll use that opportunity then to just focus on Lucia doing damage instead. So I'm actually going to just turn this on semi mode to let those two do their DPS. I'm going to do this one more time here. Go ahead and Euphoric Dance just to make sure our attack is maxed out. And let's start going. So you can see here that the damage is not very high. We're still only doing 226,000, and that's with 3 tiers of attack up here. We did lose, what's it called? Exploit weakness here, so let's go ahead and put this back on. And I'm going to wait for a second here because I want to interrupt one of its attacks. You can use this trick, by the way, with once you see the attack pop up, you can use the limit break to reset that attack. There's a tight timing window with it, and it takes a little bit of practice, but it does, it can help you with some of these more difficult stages. Yeah, even with exploit weakness on, this is not doing a ton of damage here. The good news is that Angeal's not taking a lot of damage from these single target attacks with the provoke on.
A few moments later.
Yeah, and at this point, I can tell you right now, this is not going to be anywhere near close to what we had before, right? So this isn't going to work. So trying to do it with the mixed damage isn't going to work in this fight unless, right? Unless you have Tifa and Yuffie, right? If you have Tifa and Yuffie at high overboost levels, then you're not watching this video anyway, right? At the end of the day. And in case you are, I mean, you can see in the top 10 builds for the first fight, you can see what they're doing, right? They're using Tifa and Yuffie at the end of the day. Cait Sith has the ability to increase magic attack and physical attack because he has the, I forget what the megaphone's called. It's a Cool Cat's megaphone, something like that. It's the one that increased, that was with lightning potency, that did lightning damage. It inflicts Enfeeble, which the enemy's immune to, but the important part is that it does an AoE physical attack up, which is really important, and his flower-based weapon increases magic attack. So you're able to increase Tifa's physical attack for her Earth build, while simultaneously then switching over to the flower base to increase Yuffie's magic attack and allowing her to deal obscene amounts of damage at 1340% in the max overboost level, right? So like if you have Tifa and Yuffie maxed out, you're good to go, right? But for us at the lower levels, if you're using featured weapons in particular, for us that are using featured weapons as an option, you're probably going to want to focus on just one specific damage type and go from there, right? So for just the Yuffie build, you would just want to go in with 1500%. You can go ahead and max this back out because this doesn't matter at the end of the day, and we can bring our Earth potency back up because we should be fine with this build, even with Yuffie. And then at the end of the day, over here, we'll just switch her over to Rifle of the Hunt. So that way she's dealing physical attack damage instead of magic attack damage. We'll switch this over to the more physically focused one so that Yuffie does a bit more damage, because remember that Yuffie's now our priority, right? She's going to be the one that's dealing all the damage. So now we go into the fight. Very similar strategy here, right? We're going to open up with the exploit weakness with Yuffie. We're going to open up with the stalwart integrity with Angeal. And the whole point of this is to try to maximize Yuffie's damage before she starts dealing damage, right? So all we're trying to do here is trying to max out this diamond. Because if we get this thing's HP too low, remember it's going to taunt, or it's got the other ally is going to provoke. So we want to get our gauge maxed out, which is now it's maxed out. I'll take it off auto battle here too. This will do some damage. We're going to take some damage here, but it shouldn't be too bad. We'll switch back to offensive mode. Okay, there was one hit. Just need one more and then we're good to go. There you go. And then those two attacks taken out. So now this thing will lose its defenses just like we saw before. Go ahead and max out our DPS as best we can. We're going to use Lucia's cheering shots here because this will give us an attack and a magic attack boost. And just start DPSing. Should just take 2 attacks with those 2. Perfect. And that's it. So same concept, right? Obviously the one hit damage is going to be a lot lower, so the score is going to be lower than the one that I did with the Tifa build. It took a little bit longer than the Tifa build did, but you can see here it still did 981,000, right? It's still possible with this format. Just make sure that you're applying what works with your account. These are just 2 very, very basic, very simple strategies. I am going to try to fight this with the ailment weakness down. So you can see that it has duration of ailment to others, minus 95. I'm going to put this to 0 and try and see if I can get this to where we can knock this out with poison. Because obviously for the 260 effect, as you've seen, there are also total stage level rewards as well. And then when you get to that 260 mark, we get some 5-star mats, which is nice. Obviously, these are all just kind of extra, so it's not necessary to get those. You really want to get to the 200 mark. And if you noticed with the fire build that I showcased, I think it was at 240 for that fire build. And it's not even that, it's 180 for all the crystals. So yeah, so I got it up to 240 for the fire build. That fire build that I showcased, everyone should be able to do. It might take you a little while longer because your weapons aren't as high overboost, but you should be able to get through it just fine. But yeah, I appreciate y'all watching. Hope y'all enjoyed, and hope you enjoyed the thought process as well. Like I said, I am going to go through and try to do it with a poison. I do think that will just work if anybody wants to try that on their own. Obviously, the big issue is going to be the veil, so you need to make sure that you're putting poison down on both enemies at the same time, and just try to see where the veil gets placed. I think if it was me, I would probably focus the poison on the magic enemy, the one that gets it depends on what your Yuffie's at, right? For me in particular, I have Hawkeye at OB10 and I don't have her new weapon at OB10, so I would use Hawkeye, right? So because I'm using a physical Yuffie, I would use her Twin Viper weapon, which has the ability to inflict poison for a 70% chance with a bunch of defensive effects, healing, etc. And then I would poison the thing on the left, focus down on damage on the one on the left, and that way when the one on the right provokes and veils, I'll have a full physical team ready and waiting to go to knock it down. So if anybody would like to see me actually go through that and post that here on YouTube, you let me know in the comment section down below. But yeah, appreciate y'all watching. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section down below. If you liked the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate all the support on the Ever Crisis content, folks. If you're ever interested in anything else that we're doing here on YouTube, make sure you check out all of our playlists. We got a ton of stuff here on YouTube, including full playthroughs, VODs, recorded playthroughs as well. So if you don't like live stream content, if recorded content is more your speed, or edited content is more your speed, I do have an entire section of that on my bio, so you're more than welcome to check out my profile. Go down to where it says recorded content, and that's all edited content, not live stream stuff. So I appreciate y'all watching. Hope y'all enjoyed, and as always, we'll see you again in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.